big parties, right? Everyone was driving a BMW. You know, that's a mistake, I think, in the long run. So, you know, that's sort of how an entrepreneur would look at deciding whether or not to start a business. And one of my favorites is Henry Ford, because he was absolutely fearless, and he just did not see anything that wasn't impossible. He didn't believe in that anything he didn't believe he couldn't do anything. So his quote here is, "I'm looking for a lot of men who have an infinite capacity to not know what can't be done." And I think that speaks a lot, you know, to an entrepreneur, because you can't do it by yourself. So even though Henry had a great vision, he still needed people to share that vision. And it's very important to be able to think confidently and go after something that has never been done before and be fearless about it. So he knew darn well he was going to be successful no matter what. And you know, even today he's built a great car company. It's coming back. So the legacy is still there for Ford. And then in terms of being an entrepreneur, I'm like a poster child for entrepreneurship. You know, it's a great job. You're your own boss. You affect your own destiny. You make a decision, it goes into play. Streamlined decisions, you and your team. There's no bureaucracy. There's no 50-page PowerPoints and management committee decisions. No red tape. And entrepreneurs are very action-oriented. They're less analytical and more action-oriented. And I think that you know, in an IT world, in a technology world, it's going to be a balance. You know, so for people that are used to systems-type thinking and analytics, analytical approach to solving problems, they have to balance that with being practical about going after something. And it's a really tough balance, I think. And believe it or not, there are people that are more, you know, right-brained than you guys are, that are very action-oriented too. They struggle because they don't have a systems thinking piece. So you really do have to balance the art with the science. But the one thing about, you know, a startup company is you're competing on speed and flexibility, so you do have to be very action-oriented. And then the rapid cycle iteration of feedback. So your feedback, you make a decision, you evaluate the results, you make the change, you see the results, you make the change. That whole cycle is a lot more rapid. You get more churns in a small company than you do in a big company. It allows a small company to be able to make changes and adjust quickly. And you see that. You're seeing that right now. You know, you see it with Microsoft and their migration. And, you know, Netscape came out, and then Google came out, and now Facebook has come out. And at some point, someone will displace Facebook as well. Because everyone's talking about Facebook today, $60 billion valuation. They're the content, they're the platform, they're the social network, they're everything. Well, 10, 11 years ago, there was a company called AOL that met every single test that Facebook has today, and they went out and bought Time Warner, and if they didn't buy Time Warner, AOL would have gone out of business a long time ago. But AOL 10, 11 years ago, if you guys will remember, was the Facebook. They had all the people, they had the chat rooms, they had except they were Facebook with internet access, so they had the pipe too. AOL had even more than Facebook has today in terms of a dominant position. And they lost sight of the customer, or for one reason or another, they technologically lagged, and look at them now. So, you know, that's the beauty of the business you guys are in, and the business that I'm in, is that there's creative destruction, it's exciting, there's a lot of things happening, a lot of change going on, and it's important, I think, if you look at, I mean, I'll let the professor talk about this, but I think if you studied the success or failure of companies, you know, you wind up seeing that, in hindsight, it's a lot easier to see it, I think. But, you know, you can probably study, why did Microsoft decline? You know, what happened with their monopoly? They had the operating system, the application monopoly, the IE, Internet Explorer. You know, and my prediction for Microsoft is they'll be out of all three businesses, and they'll be in the game business because of this Kinect technology, which was an accident. I mean, it was really an accident. Microsoft is going to be saved by an ancillary technology that they certainly probably couldn't have predicted. But
so the interesting thing about studying, the entrepreneurship,
yes,
instead of doing entrepreneurship, is that scholars flock to success.
yes,
Just like practitioners also flock to
yes,
success. And the people hate to study failures and
right.
but actually success is an exception rather than the norm.
That's
Failure
right.
is the norm.
Yes, and I think the smart practitioner and the smart academic studies failure, because by studying failure, or history as they call it, or failure, however you want to look at it, you can identify success quickly, and you can also look at success in a different manner by studying the failure. I mean, do you guys know how many books Bill Gates has ever written? He wrote a book called The Road Ahead. Have you ever heard of that?
It was very hot in the 90s.
Yeah.
Late 1999.
Do you know what was unique about the first edition of that book? Do you remember? The Road Ahead. Bill Gates, like the richest man in the world.
Very thick.
Yeah.
But I couldn't finish it because it was so redundant.
It was redundant. So, Bill Gates, I have a copy of the original Bill Gates book called The Road Ahead.
Yeah.
And it was written in '98, was it? There was one thing that's really missing in that book. 1998, Bill Gates, richest man in the world, richest company in the world, most successful IT company. You know what word does not appear in that book at all? The word internet. Even Bill Gates missed the boat. And then he wrote a second edition that was all about the internet. But I have a copy of a book that the word internet doesn't even exist. And that was in 1998, 2 years before the dot-com bubble. So that tells you that the chief technologist and richest man in the world of the greatest IT company of its day couldn't even predict its own, what would take it down. That's the beauty of the business you guys are in. It's the beauty of what you're studying, is that, innovation can come from anywhere. It can come from any one of you guys. It can come from two guys in a garage in Palo Alto, and two guys in a garage could take down Facebook, and probably will, or at least give it a real good run for its money someday. So let me just finish up, and then I'll open it up for questions. Are we okay on time?
Yeah.
Oh, we are. Okay, good. So making a sale, this has to do with flexibility. So you don't have a business unless you have a customer. So foundation customer is very important, the first major customer, because you might have a business plan and you might have funding, and you ran that first, and you think you're going to go in this direction, and the first customer calls you and says, well, can you do that? And they're going to write you a big check. Well, guess what? You're going to do that, and you're going to switch your strategy, and that'll happen a lot along the way. Much like when you're in a sailboat, you're going from point A to point B. You don't ever go in a straight line. You're kind of tacking, and that's what happens with a startup company. And it's really tough to balance staying focused. I'm going to be the call center provider to the telecom industry only, but then I got Merck calling me up, and I've got Kaiser Permanente saying, you want to do some financial services? So strategically thinking, we have to decide, do we want to do that or not, and why do we want to do it? And there are reasons why you would stray from your focus. For money, obviously. You get a big logo. We signed Merck, and we got into the healthcare business because Merck was a big customer, but at the time we were all telecom. You can develop new solutions, new vertical markets, new geographies, a lot of different things that would allow you, but you really should think through before you accept the business, because I think it's very important to say no in accepting business. It's so easy to say yes, but if you say no, that's really the smart business person says no more than they say yes, because they got to stay true to their general direction that they're going in. And the best salesperson is the CEO or the executive team. So it's nice to sit and say, oh, I'm going to hire a bunch of salespeople and some sales managers and let them go out. At the end of the day, it's your vision, it's your product, your solution, and your passion that comes through to the customer. So the best salesman in the company is the founder, in my opinion, at least in the early stages of the company's formation. And then in terms of raising money, which is always a big thing, when you're doing your plan and you're sitting in front of an investor, you want to answer the basic questions: who, what, where, when, how, why. You don't want to do a 20-page business plan. You want to do a 2 to 3-page executive summary that addresses these questions. And if you can pique their interest, they'll call you back in, and then you can do a little bit more of a detailed presentation, if you will. But they also focus on the team. They want to see expertise. They want to see it with you guys. They want to see it with your boards. What do you do different or better? You know, do you have a better mousetrap? If so, how does it work, and how is it going to beat all these other competitors? Do you have customers? And you know, that's a real key question, because again, it validates your idea, your thinking. Scalability is big for investors, because investors want giant ideas that are going to be huge and become billion-dollar companies. So if it's not scalable and if it's not big, your institutional investors are probably not going to want to do it. Competition is always a huge question, because competition is more established, they're bigger, they're better funded. So what makes you think you can beat the competitors? That's always a question. And as far as financial projections go, it's an academic exercise. So you want to show the hockey stick, you know, like it goes up, but you don't want to, and you want to back it up. But the venture capitalists aren't going to sit there and look at every single assumption in your spreadsheet and say, oh, you should have priced it 3 cents less. They're looking at the concept. They're looking at, did you make the assumptions right? Did you forecast properly your closing percentages and your lifetime value of the customer and the subscription value of your customer, etc. And they want to make sure that you've thought it through. So that's sort of what I would be looking at as an investor, and, as opposed to the exact, you know, oh, you were off by $100, you know, here or there. So that's sort of some thinking as you guys go about if you want to start a business and raise some money. And as far as advice for you entrepreneurs, and I wish there were more than just 3 or 4 of you guys here, but I speak a lot at Maryland and at Georgetown and other places, and basically I just have sort of some things that I've learned the hard way and some the easy way, but I have some advice, and it's worth what you're paying for it, which is 0. But number 1 to me is integrity, because you have to sleep at night, and it's a great way to live your life, and it's hard to fake. It's very hard to fake if you don't have integrity. And you know, business people will congregate towards other high integrity business people, because life is too short, and there's no reason to go about doing business with somebody that's going to wind up taking the shortcuts. Do it now. So if you really want to start a business, I think the whole idea about it is, if you got the idea now, just do it. And the worst that can happen is you fail after 4 years, but you didn't really fail because you learned a lot. Get another job somewhere else. You can't do it yourself. You need great people on your team. That's a very key thing that some entrepreneurs don't realize, but it's the truth. You know, not one person can do it. Whether you're trying to win a Super Bowl, win a football game, win a battle, you need a team of people. Customer focus is critical, again, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are writing your paycheck. They're the ones that are the boss. The ultimate boss is the customer. And if you're not focused on the ultimate boss, you could potentially risk losing the ultimate boss. Flexibility is important, again, because small businesses, they move a lot, things change, and you know, circumstances change, so you want to be flexible. When you're building a culture, you want to start day 1 with yourself. The first employee you hire, you can have a big culture change. You hire a 3rd person, you've just increased 33% or 50%, and you can start having political issues. So if you lay out the culture early, it'll stay with you. And that's a big reason why M&A deals don't work as often, because of the culture clash or difference. Persistence is super important, because whatever plans you make aren't going to happen the way you expected, usually. Sometimes you get lucky, hit the home run, but usually it doesn't. And it's the person who's persistent that winds up winning in the long run, in every endeavor, even in what you guys are doing here and in your jobs. You want to raise more money than you need, so that you're not stuck always looking for the next round of money. You have enough to get you. If you're driving to New York City, fill up your gas tank. Don't just put 1 gallon in. Gets you, 25 miles. You got to you spend all time looking for another gas station to put another gallon in. Just fill up the tank, get you to your destination. I have so many CEO friends that they don't want to dilute themselves, so they raise just enough to get to the next milestone, or a little bit more than that. And they spend so much time looking for money, when they should be spending their time building their teams and talking to their customers. So